What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another installment of Prospects Overload presented by Prospects Worldwide. I'm your lovely and talented host, as always, Drake Mann. You can follow me on Twitter at DrakeMan4. And I'm joined here by my co-host, the loser that he is, Austin Farmer. Austin, say hi.
Well, I'll say hi, but I'm going to cut that part out. So whenever all our viewers hear me say this part, they're going to be like, wait, what did he cut out?
Okay, that's a really weird exchange, but Austin, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been what, 3 months, 2 months?
2 months-ish roundabouts.
School has been you need to bleep this out, but school has been a massive pain in the ass, so yeah.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. Full-time student, being a full-time student sucks, so.
Yeah, so just bleep me out. But anyway, Austin, we have one of our favorite scouts with us, and he is the lovely and talented Caden Schmidt. Caden, say hi.
What up, guys?
What up, Caden?
I just want to make it known that just because Drake calls himself lovely and talented doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. The more times you say it, doesn't make it like truth.
What are you talking about? I just literally compliment. Okay, whatever. Whatever. You know what? I'm just going to say one thing here. I know one of the things that we're doing today, the overrated, underrated, Caden's about to have a list of prospects, about 8 or 9 of them. So that'll take up half the podcast. So yeah, we should be prepared for that.
Yeah, we might be here 3 hours, boys.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to keep it short for you guys today. I'm going to probably do like 2 underrated, maybe 3 overrated.
Wow.
Even though like 90% of the MiLB is overrated, I'm going to keep it short.
Well, I mean, I already know one of your overrateds because you talk about him a lot. But anyway, let's get this started with our episode. And as you all know, there's hot takes in here, there's stats, there's analysis. And this time we're talking about the Arizona Fall League. It just ended. We had the surprise Saguaros win it, which was pretty fire because I live about 20 minutes from Surprise, and I watched them a lot this year. But we're going to start off with stat of the day, and this is going to be the highest on-base percentage with a minimum of 50 at-bats in the AFL this year. And number one is no surprise for me, Edward Julian. Fucking Austin.
I'm sorry, Greg. I don't think Edward Julian played for Surprise.
Well, what do you mean? I'm so confused.
You said I have one for Surprise. I don't think he played for Surprise.
Oh my God. Caden, listen, I get that you have a family now, but don't do the dad jokes, please. Don't do the dad jokes. God dang. Now I'm up. Okay, all right. Back to. Okay, all right. All right. So, number one, this may come as a surprise. Edward Julian with the Minnesota Twins at a .563 on base percentage. We got TJ Rumfield at a .477. He's with the Yankees. We got Colt Keith at number 3 with the Tigers at a .463 on base percentage. We got Austin's boy, Austin Martin with the Twins at a .454 on base percentage. Zach Veen of the Colorado Rockies at a .444 on base percentage. Xavier Warren at a .443 on base percentage with the Brewers. And then we have Justin Henry Malloy with a .438. He's with the Braves. Henry Davis coming in at a .435 with the Pirates. Will Wagner at .433 out of the Astros system. And number 10 on this list, Nicholas York at a .424, and he's with the Red Sox. Now, before I go on with the honorable mentions, who do you guys want to take a closer look at on that list?
I'm going to say I want to take a closer look at Colt Keith. Honestly, Colt Keith wasn't really on my radar until I talked to Drake at one of the games. And after watching him a little bit, I kind of can see where people have been can see interest in him.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Anything else you want to say about him or no?
No, I want to hear more about your guys' takes on him. I want to hear more on your side is where I was trying to get with that.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of Colt Keith. I think I saw one at bat when Austin was out here, or actually one game when Austin was out here. And the one thing you just have to point out is the eye. Like, I mean, that's obvious with the .463 on base. But other than that, it's like you were just saying, he's not really too special of a prospect, but I mean, to be number 3 on this list, I mean, that's pretty surprising to me, at least.
Because he plays for Surprise.
I swear to God with you. All right. Anyway, that's my take. Austin, what do you think about Colt Keith?
Yeah, like you said, I just saw him for the one game with you, and he didn't really stick out too much besides his patience. And I mean, that's really all I can say about our boy Colt Keith.
That is Caden's boy, Colt Keith, by the way. That's his new.
Caden's boy, our boy. It all gets lost in the mix.
But anyway, Austin, anyone on here that you want to?
Yeah, so I'll do a brief snippet here on Edward Julian. I do remember a little bit about him before the AFL, but I had never really seen him, or I didn't know too much about him besides what we had gone over with the Risers and Shiners. But I did see 2 games of him at AFL, and I do remember he showed some nice pop, and especially on Twitter, people started talking about Edward Julian towards the end of the AFL, and to see him number 1 on this list is pretty surprising. And I do think that he has made a lot of strides during this AFL.
I'll say one thing. I'm surprised you never even heard of him, but even before we had this stuff with Risers and Shiners, I mean, he played up a 441 on base in 2022. So the eye is obviously there. And because that was the guy that I was going to talk about, Edward Julian, because his eye has always been good. The power's starting to come around. I mean, he hit 17 home runs last year. He showed a lot of pop with AFL, as you were saying. But I want to touch on Xavier Warren right now. I mean, I went to go see the Glendale Desert Dogs, and then on comes this guy off the bench, Xavier Warren. And all I saw him do, because I saw the Desert Dogs a few times actually when Austin was out here and then when I was by myself. And all he did was hit. He'd go opposite field. He'd go to all fields well. And, that's one guy that I think people need to actually start seeing and start getting hyped on, because he actually looked like a legitimate prospect for the Brewers.
I really did like his athleticism too for the games that we saw. So if you want to touch up a little bit on that as well.
That's a fairly good point. But here's where we're not on the overrated, underrated yet, but we have some honorable mentions for this list. And there is one part where this is gonna very upset Caden quite a bit that he's on this list, but we'll see how this goes. And and Austin. But so honorable mentions due to not enough at bats. So as I was saying with this list, there's a minimum of 50 at bats to be on it. But Zach Britton at 47 at bats had a 482 on base percentage. You got Tanner Morris, 43 at bats, had a 466. Jordan Lawler at 36 at bats with a 469. Jose Caballero had 42 at bats and 467. Logan Wyatt had a 500 on base percentage and 49 at bats, and Nico Cavadas had a 417 on base with 46 at bats.
I don't believe you. I just don't. Plain and simple.
Stats are lies.
I'll let you two just take over on that, so I don't laugh anymore.
I honestly don't think Kavakis got a hit. I mean, you've made contact with the ball in the games I saw. One game I know for a fact he had 3 strikeouts.
I think that was the game that we all went to.
That probably was it.
Yeah, and it's just like, if anything, it's a testament to how bad AFL pitching is. Honestly, if a guy like Nico Cavadas can have a 417 OBP.
Okay, this has turned into a Nico Cavadas roast section for no reason, but I mean, you could just look on the AFL website. You can look on Baseball Reference. Nico Cavadas had a 417 on base percentage in the AFL this year.
Don't invest in his first Bowmans. That's all I'll say.
Okay, card expert, calm down. But anyway, we're gonna move on from start of the day. That was very interesting with when we talked about Julian and Warren and even Colt Keith, and the unnecessary shots to Nico Cavadas. But now we go to where we turn up the heat a little bit with start bench cut. And this is between 3 outfielders. And I think this might be a little bit obvious, but maybe at the same time not. But Heston Kjerstad, Andy Pages, Luis Matos. Austin, you're going first, just because I love to torture you.
All right, well, this was kind of an easier one. It might shock a little you two, honestly, but I'm going to start Andy Pages, bench Heston Kjerstad, and cut Luis Matos.
Wow, that is interesting. Why?
So the number of games that I saw Andy Pages, he didn't really put up numbers. Again, stats are lies, but he battled professionally every at-bat. He was fouling off pitches. I think I saw at least 2 or 3 where he had close to 10 pitch ABs. And even if he didn't get his way, he put up a fight until the end. And he did make really good contact on a couple of pitches. So the power potential is definitely there. He might not be a high contact guy, but I think that he's going to be a high on base percentage / power guy. And he also has pretty decent arm strength too, that from what I saw. Kjerstad is a bit of a biased pick, and you did misspell his name. FYI, in the sheet, it's a J instead of an H. Mostly that he is from Texas, but also I really liked, and as I'm talking, he's changing on the Google sheet. But I really liked what I saw the couple of games of Kjerstad that when I was there, and I think the bat plays in the big leagues. Luis Matos, I do think that he will have a higher ceiling than Kjerstad, but if we're going based off AFL from this year for start bench cut, I would cut Matos because I think of the 3, he's the one that didn't impress me as much compared to those 2.
Oh, that's interesting. And also, no, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, Caden, what's yours?
All right. I'm going to do this segment the way it's exactly written. I'm going to start Heston Kjerstad, bench Andy Pages, and cut Luis Matos. It's tough to say you're gonna sit the AFL MVP, and Kjerstad put up the numbers that would show to be MVP caliber, even though stats can be lies. But yeah, so it's gonna be a start for Kjerstad. Pages, I think the clutch gene is going to come in really, really necessary. He's going to be solid in a pinch hit situation. There was multiple games that he was either a rally starter in the bottom half of the inning, at the end of close games, or he would hit in the game when he hit. So I think that clutch gene will be very good to play off the bench. And Luis Matos, in the games I did see of him, the power was definitely at 2 home runs in games that I saw, but there is still a lot of swing and miss. As Austin mentioned, I think Matos probably has a higher ceiling than both Kjerstad and Pages, but I think he's still a product that needs some work right now. And until he fixes the swing and miss, he's going to be on my cut list.
Yeah, and Caden, you didn't even mention with Kjerstad that, I mean, he missed already a year with injury. And
year and a half for a heart condition.
Year and a half, exactly. Correct. Yeah, with a heart issue. And he comes to AFL and completely dismantles the pitching, where the pitching really isn't that good. But still, I mean, even then with the AFL Home Run Derby, he was hitting bombs left and right. And, from what I saw from Kjerstad, I think you got to start him. This is like a nice transition into, I can't believe I just did that. This is a nice transition into my start bench cut. So I'm starting Heston Kjerstad, benching Andy Pages, and cutting Luis Matos. Even though I'm a huge fan of Andy Pages, it's the AFL MVP. You really can't bench him. And especially with how much I like Pages, Kjerstad is on another level at the moment. And he's going to build off of this, I think, and turn into, I think he's going to rise heavily this next year in the minors. And I think he could debut in 2023. That's my hot take right there.
I was about to say, I could see him coming up as a September call-up in 2023 because he's gonna be hungry because, he missed a year and a half with his heart condition. And when people saw that he was finally playing again, I remember the reaction was like, oh my God, thank you. And now that he's doing well, he's definitely going to have the fan base. And I think that he's going to see that that's going to help him perform. And I think that he's just going to dominate. And I could see him getting a September call-up.
Let me just say one more thing. Orioles fans, you can no longer be miserable. Kjerstad is coming. You already got Rutschman. You got hopefully a healthy DL Hall.
Colton Cowser, boy.
Grayson Rodriguez.
Overrated player. And then, yeah. What's his name? Oh my God. The pitcher.
Grayson Rodriguez. I said
Grayson Rodriguez. Yes, and Grayson Rodriguez coming as well. So Orioles fans, y'all are going to be happy here in the next couple years.
Gonna have a really strong middle of the order.
Caden, I know that you have a few fireworks with your overrated, and we're going straight to them right now. You go first right now. I want to hear it. Go.
How many you want right away? Are we gonna do one? We're gonna do one at a time and go around the circle, or do you guys want them all at once?
Well, I only have one, so it's up to you
Let's
guys.
go all at once. Let's do a Khalil Watson here.
Oh God. Oh,
What?
good God. Caden, just go. We'll just do all at once.
Okay, I'm gonna start with MiLB Marte. The reason I'm not a fan of MiLB Marte is because I don't see him turning the leaf that he was supposed to turn. The first excuse you always hear is he's still young and stuff like that, but I haven't seen improvement in the past 2 years. I saw him right when he came over to in the Arizona Rookie League, and now that was 2 years ago, and I still think he's the same player. And I don't see him getting much better than where he is right now. I think he's going to plateau, and I think that's a big reason why the Mariners kind of just gave up on him and decided to move on.
Hayden, can I point something out too that I noticed with Marte at the AFL?
Go for it.
Is it just me, or did he look a little bit thicker than what we've seen before?
Like Kevin Maton thicker?
Not to that degree, but like I remember he looked more athletic before, and now it kind of looks like he just kind of let his body weight go. Or
I can see that.
This episode's gonna be full of hot takes. All right, cool.
That's just something that I noticed because I think I saw 3 or 4 games of him, and that was one of the first things I noticed because I did watch him on MiLB TV some, and he looked okay, but maybe he, the time in the off season he kind of just let loose a little bit too much. I don't have, this is all, coming from the outside, but yeah, to me it looked like he just put on a little weight.
That's a fair point. That could be it, but I don't think it's exactly muscle, though. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was speculating that maybe he kind of just let loose during the off season. And obviously, I'm not in his circle or anything, so I'm not going to speak for him. But that is something that I noticed from a spectator's view.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is all speculation. Austin has no sources, so this is all speculation on his part. But I do want to say one thing. I honestly think for that Luis Castillo trade, that Edwin Arroyo was the big piece. I like Marte. What at the time is like the big prize because he was like their number one prospect at the time. But Edwin Arroyo was the real reason why they made that trade. But that's the only in my opinion, one of the only reasons why they made that trade. But anyway, let's just move on from MiLB Marte. Caden, who are your other 20? I'm assuming you have about that much.
Let's hear all 50 of them.
Next on the list, Owen Cassie of the Chicago Cubs. He is another guy I got to see right away when he got drafted in the ACL. And I was very high on him after seeing his ACL performances. He hit a couple home runs, showed off some plus power. And now I'm convinced he can't hit a baseball if it's tied to his bat.
Wow. Wow. Okay, then. All right. So you said you had 3. So who's your third one?
Third one, I'm going to go with Victor Mesa Jr. Victor Mesa Jr., along with his brother Victor Mesa, were the key prospects, international prospect signings for the Mariners. I want to say it was in 2018 or 2019. I don't remember which one. But Victor Mesa has looked a lot better than Victor Mesa has. And honestly, I think it was supposed to be the other way around when they signed. So Victor Mesa has dropped off, in my opinion, where Victor Mesa has at least shown potential to possibly make a difference in the Mariners lineup in the future.
Yeah, Caden, it was 2018. So you got it right. Wow, that's a very promising list for those fans that love prospects, but yeah, those are some hot takes right there, Caden. But Austin, you go ahead and take the reins if Caden is done, but I don't know if he is because he has like probably 20 more.
I'm good for right now. I'm gonna pass the baton over to Austin, and we're gonna see where he goes.
All right, so I've got two that one of them is another guy from the Rangers system that played at the AFL. Last year was Justin Foscue. This year is Aaron Zavala. I think I saw 1 or 2 games of Zavala. I can't remember the exact total, but his bat looked below average, if not well below average. He wasn't making really good contact, and I believe he got hurt. Caden, do you remember hearing about that, Caden? If he got hurt?
I remember hearing a story about it. I don't remember exactly what the injury was, but I do remember him getting hurt, yes.
Yeah, so he's one guy for me that I just feel was really overrated. Like, I know a lot of people were high on him. He went to same university, Oregon State, as Adley Rutschman, and he was a second-round pick, and so people were kind of trying to piece the puzzle together, and I hadn't seen him at OSU much besides the number of games that I saw Rutschman, and I remember thinking he's okay, but especially after this AFL, I'm Rangers need to dig a little bit deeper with their drafts because he was pretty disappointing for sure. So he's one of my overrateds. And, he might end up having a strong 2023. We'll see what happens. But for the AFL segment, he's definitely my overrated. And another one, I'm sorry, Renzi, but Will Bednar. I saw one of Will Bednar's starts at AFL, and I remember thinking going into the start, like, all right, Bednar is going to prove me right because I'm still high on him. And then he couldn't command the ball. His sliders showed potential, but I would have given them a 50 based off that outing. And he couldn't locate his fastball, and overall it was just a really disappointing start. So those are my 2 overrated.
Well, as you were in the process of saying your overrateds, I was just thinking back to some of my film that I've watched, and I added someone to my overrated list that is going to get me crucified if I'm wrong, but I'm willing to take that risk.
As long as it's not Juan Pinto, you're good in my book.
I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that. But overrated, my first one is Trevor Halver. We're picking on the Rangers prospects, but I remember when the Rangers acquired Halver for for Joey Gallo. There was a lot of hype around him. I mean, he went to Arizona State University. There was a lot of hype around him being drafted down here. Like, a lot of people were really high on Trevor Halver. He did have a high on base, but as we saw from the list, a lot of people had a high on base out here.
If Nico Kavadas can have a high on base, so can Trevor Halver.
Thank you for interrupting me. I really appreciate it. But Trevor Halver, I saw him take a lot of pitches that were middle away, taking them and then swinging the pitches in the dirt. His hit tool didn't look as promising as I thought it did at one point. I think at one point I had him as a top 5 prospect for the Rangers, but now I wouldn't even put him top 10. I think that there's a lot for him to work on, and this AFL didn't really help him that much. I mean, I only saw him a few number of games, so I could be just a little bit off here. But my second one, this is going to make both of you cringe. I mean, you probably just saw me type it, but Luis Angel Acuna.
Oh, you.
I'm sorry, Austin, but yes, he displayed some power here. But there is massive swing and miss with Luis Angel Acuna. And yes, I get that he's young, but from what I saw to what I was told that I was going to see by you and so many other people, Luis Angel Acuna was very overrated this Arizona Fall League. And also, to me, his defense is really overrated too, because he made a lot of routine plays look bad with throwing errors, and just his internal clock was messed up, and he made a lot of errors that really any shortstop would make in any different, like in any time. So that's why I got to say that Luis Angel Acuna is slightly overrated.
Well, if you're gonna hurt me like that, I'm gonna say that Tyler O'Neill is my last overrated from the AFL because he struck out
He
against
had
Quinn
3
Priester.
at bats and got a hit. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah, well, Quinn Priester struck him out, so
Okay, Quinn Priester has a plus curveball and an above average fastball. What's your point?
he's still overrated. TON is overrated. I don't care if the Cardinals fan base comes after me.
Okay, 2011.
So hurtful. Yeah.
I mean, hey, dude, at least you're not an Angels fan. Sorry, Caden, but it had to be said.
That's just the beat.
I have no words.
So now we're done with our overrated segment. Now we go to our underrated. And Austin, I'm going to make this a little bit more calm, relaxing. You, my man, take it away.
All right. Well, I'm going to stick with one because I do feel like there were a few that I saw that could be underrated or could be on my underrated list. But there is one guy who we are all in agreement that he is just a stud. And I've been hyping him up all AFL. And I've got a report coming out on him soon. And I firmly believe that he will end up being the best catching prospect in baseball. And I'm talking about a Caro that's a catching prospect, not Edgar, but Jefferson. That guy, I mean, I realize that his hitting, if you look at his hitting stats in the AFL, they weren't all that impressive, but his defense, man, his defense. I saw him make off-balance throws on a line with arm strength, and that was one thing that I really wanted to see at the AFL was kind of like add a little bit more oomph because the accuracy is definitely there, but I firmly have his arm grade as a plus now because he has shown the arm strength, and he's just an incredible catcher. He defends well, he blocks well, he prevents runs. He's going to have a very high defensive WAR, and he can hit with power. I do believe that he's still a very raw prospect right now, but the power's coming, and he looks like he could still add 10 to 15 pounds in his frame. So I think the power is going to come from there, and he has a quick swing. So if he can add a little bit more loft, that it's all going to come together. And yeah, Caro is just a stud. And one more thing I want to point out too is another thing I was looking forward to seeing at the AFL is Caro's ability to use the entire field, because that was one thing that he really didn't do much of during the 2022 season. Was he was a very much a pull hitter. I think he had something close to like a 50% pull percentage rate, and like each game that I saw him there, he was hitting all over the field. He was hitting up the middle, he was hitting oppo, he pulled it. And so I think that 2023 is going to be a huge year for Jefferson Caro.
Man, for a second, when you were talking about a catcher, I thought you were talking about Joe Mack, but
Oh, okay. Going back to overrated, how did none of us have Joe Mack?
I'm gonna be.
I knew that was gonna trigger you
because I figured that Austin was gonna mention him.
See, that's how insignificant he is to me. Is that he's not even on my list. I just don't think about him.
Well, technically, you're thinking about him now. But anyway, we're gonna move on with Caden now. Caden, go ahead, take it away.
My first underrated prospect is going to be a second-year AFL player. His first year was not very impressive, but this year I did see a significant increase in his eye and his ball to bat ratio. He put a lot more balls in play this year than last year. This is a catcher as well. His name is Drew Millis for the Nationals. This year, he put together a 304 batting average, 333 on base percentage. So he's not getting walked as much as I'd like him get to walk, but he's batting 303, putting the ball in play. And that is an increase from last season when he hit 196 in the AFL. The only difference on Austin's side is Cuero obviously has a way better arm than Millis. Millis was only able to throw out 16% of runners during the AFL this year. So obviously that number's not great, but I think that if the bat can play well enough, you may be able to transition to a position.
I have two, right? So I don't have three or one. I have two. I'm going to
be a position player and a backup catcher if need be. So that's what I got for Drew Millis. And then my other two guys are going to be pitchers. One of them is going to make me get on Drake's good side because he just happens to be a Cardinal.
Tin cans.
That is not going to be Tin Cans. It's going to be Connor Thomas.
Oh, okay. Respectable.
Connor Thomas had a very good year in the AFL as well. And in a pitcher non-friendly league, having a good year is almost impossible. He put up a 1.75 ERA in 8 games pitched, 25 innings. He gave up 22 hits, but also had 34 strikeouts. So the hit to strikeout ratio is not where I'd like it, obviously, but the amount of strikeouts he's getting in the amount of innings he's pitching is very impressive. And my third and final guy is going to be a Cub. He's also a reliever, Bailey Horn. Bailey Horn put together a 1.5 ERA in 8 games pitched as well. He threw 12 innings and only gave up 7 walks to go along with 9 strikeouts. Horn has a very good off speed that was able to throw off batters and keep them off balance, which I think is going to be playing in the big leagues. If you can have a reliever that has a very good secondary pitch, they usually find their way to the big leagues. They don't necessarily always have success, but he'll definitely get a chance. I see him in the big leagues at some point.
Man, I love that Connor Thomas pick. Just because Connor Thomas, for a while, has put up those type of results, but the Cardinals have just not put him in the majors because, his stuff isn't really, the lights out, strikeout stuff.
Correct.
Like, he's a ground ball pitcher. And, even with the infield that he would have, like, he still can be very hittable at times. But I really like that pick because I remember there was an article that came out that said he, struck out, 6 guys or something, and he was a reliever as a relief outing. He struck out 6 out of 8 guys, or it was something like that. But yeah, he's been pretty steady for the Cardinals. In 2023, he could make it out of spring. So that would be very interesting. But I'm going to go on with my underrated right out of the gate. That one guy I actually got to see at a complex league, much like Caden, you were saying about your guys on overrated. Connor Cox with the Guardians. This is a guy that I saw his first hit. I saw his first multi-hit game, and they were all in the ACL. And what I've seen from AFL, it translated beautifully. I mean, he was hitting the ball to all fields like I love what that guys do. He showed a little bit of power. He showed excellent plate discipline. I'd give that his eye at least a plus because that's all that guy does. And it was really funny. I actually have a quick story because I was at a game, and this was a long game. It was like a 3.5 hour game. And Connor Cox, I think, got about 5 at-bats. And all I hear is one of the fans behind me say, "Hey, get this Connor Cox off the field," because he was tired of seeing him hit. So, yeah. So Connor Cox is definitely one of the guys to watch going forward in that Guardian system. I think that he can really turn some heads in 2023. And my second one, I have actually called his breakout for a while. He's with the San Diego Padres organization, and that is Terso Ornelas. And in 2022, he actually had a very good year. So he had a slash line of 286, 353, 404 with a 757 OPS. Now with Peoria in a 65 plate appearance sample size, he hit 293, 369, 414 with a 783. So he's getting on at a steady rate. All that has to click with him is his power potential. Because there's gap to gap, but he needs to get that over the fence power coming sooner rather than later, especially being in that Padres lineup and especially hitting in Petco Park. However, I do think that he gets traded this offseason. I think that they're going to take advantage of him being at the AFL and a lot of scouts seeing him. I think that they're going to take advantage and ship him off to get another major league piece. But I think that Terso Ornelas was one of the most underrated guys out here. Okay, now this is kind of a new segment, but this is all from the AFL website. I will put this out there right now. But shortstop rankings with these 6 players. So we have Jackson Merrill, Austin Martin, Mason Wynn, Jordan Lawler, Nick Gonzalez, and Luis Angel Acuna. So you're going to rank these guys from 1 to 6. What do you guys think?
I'm going to do number 1. I'm going to put Austin Martin. Number 2, I'm going to do Jackson Merrill. 3, Jordan Lawler. 4, Mason Wynn. 5, Nick Gonzalez. 6, Luis Angel Acuna.
Wow, interesting. Do you have any reasoning behind that?
I'm going to let Austin go off, and we'll do reasoning after. I just want to hear you guys' list first.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I'm going to agree with you, Caden, and I'm going to put Austin Martin at 1. I will put Jordan Lawler at number 2. I will put Mason Wynn at 3. And the only reason why I have Jackson Merrill this low is because I did not get to see him while I was at the AFL, so I will have him at 4. And I will put Luis Angel Acuna ahead of Nick Gonzalez, only because I didn't have eyes on Nick Gonzalez while I was there. So, I saw more of Acuna. So that's going to be my list. It's going to be Austin Martin, Jordan Lawler, Mason Wynn, Merrill, Acuna, and Gonzalez.
Now, mine is vastly different. I'm gonna be upfront here and say Jackson Merrill is the best one on this list. There is, and I don't think that is a competition. That's just my personal opinion. And then I think you go Austin Martin 2, and then you go Jordan Lawler 3, Mason Wynn 4, Nick Gonzalez, and Luis Angel Acuna. I'm actually going to go first with my explanation. Jackson Merrill is just special. I mean, I remember I saw him in Complex League, much like I saw Connor Cox. And Jackson Merrill just, my goodness, like from what I saw then, he was swinging out a lot of pitches in the dirt. He really wasn't putting up too competitive of at-bats, but like you knew that he was still raw, like very raw. And then this AFL, he popped off just completely hitting everything and showcasing basically his talent level. And he's honestly one of the best prospects in baseball, if we're being honest here. Martin, the only reason why he's really on this list is because like he did spend some time at shortstop, from what I remember in the AFL. So, but he might have some time in center and left. You never know. Mason Wynn, I still question his hit tool, but that arm strength that is absolutely insane. Jordan Lawler, obviously, he's one of the best prospects out here as well. I just didn't get to see him at all, but he's again a top-notch prospect. And then Nick Gonzalez, and he's gonna be okay. I think he'll be a pretty decent player. And then Angel Acuna, you guys already know what I think about him. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Merrill, Martin, Lawler, Wynn, Gonzalez, Acuna.
So yeah, I mean, essentially, Drake and my list are the same. Just flipped 1 and 2. I mean, I'm kind of biased on the Merrill that I saw during the ACL. I still think that's in there. So that's why I have Martin above him. But like Drake said, he did have a very impressive AFL this year. I just don't know how it continues to play up at the following levels. Mason Wynn's hit tool was another thing I wanted to touch on that Drake did. I'm not convinced that it's going to continue to be successful as he starts to face better pitching, especially in this league where the pitching is not great. There were still times where I was not impressed. He had bad at-bats. So I'm hoping that either it's just a mind change, or if it maybe adjustments to the swing in order to get him to be where he needs to be. But the arm is his tool, and that's going to be what gets him to the big leagues if he does get there. Jordan Lawler, like Drake said, is one of the top prospects out here. I didn't get to see his hit tool as much as I would have liked either. But from the games I saw online and from previous experiences, I think his hit tool is better than Mason Wynn's. So that's why I put him above him. Nick Gonzalez, I'm basing it off of what I saw last year during the AFL when he was here. I didn't get to see him this year. And then Luis Angel Acuna, the bats I saw just weren't impressive, and it's very clear that he, in my opinion, he's the 6th best on this list.
Austin, go ahead.
All right, so I really liked Austin Martin's at-bats that I saw him. I think that his hit does play, and I can definitely see him playing a lot of time in center. So I could agree with y'all on that. But for this list particularly, I would have him at number one. And again, like I didn't really get to see Nick Gonzalez either, but one thing that y'all failed to mention was I do see him more of a second baseman as well. So that also is why I have him last on this list, I believe is what I said. But yeah, Mason Wynn is a guy who, yeah, we all have said like his arm is definitely his tool. But I do like his pop, but yeah, I still have question marks about his bat, and it looked like he was still trying to figure out his internal clock defensively. And obviously, Jordan Lawler is, like we've all said, is a high caliber guy. And I did like his ABs, but I didn't get to see enough of him. But yeah, he also has really solid arm strength. But Merrill, I do feel, is a really solid prospect. It's just that I didn't get to see him at all. So during the AFL.
See, the one thing I remember from Mason Wynn was when the three of us were at a game and he was making plays left and right, and I tabbed him with a 70 fielding grade. And then as soon as I wrote it down, I think the two of the next three hitters got on with errors after him, and one went right through his legs.
The other one got late.
Yeah, that was not fun that night.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I feel, we discussed it at the game too, is kind of where I feel that he's still trying to figure out his internal clock at short and defensively. But yeah, he still, I feel, will stick it short. And a big reason of that is because of his arm as well. I'm good.
Yeah, very, very well said. All right. So we keep talking about how terrible the pitching was out here, but let's do a bright spot here. We're going to do favorite pitchers that we saw out here. And I know, Caden, kind of touched on it a bit, so you don't need to have like more than what you've already done. But I think I'll go first with this one. I got to go Christian Chamberlain and TJ Sikkema, both out of the Royals organization. Christian Chamberlain is a lefty, absolutely like weird mechanics, but he's literally topping out at 95 right now and sitting 91 to 93. So with just a nasty hook that is definitely going to keep hitters at bay. And I think when I saw him, he was just insane, missing bats left and right. And the opposite was TJ Sikkema. Now, he's a high 80s, low 90s type of pitcher, but again, weird delivery, gets a lot of weak contact, a lot of ground balls. That's like the polar opposite of Christian Chamberlain. But when I saw him, Sikkema had a really good outing and just developed a lot of weak contact. All right, so I just went over my favorite pitcher or pitchers that I saw out here. And Austin, I painfully am asking this, but you go ahead and say yours.
You got one more segment, right?
Yes, we have one more segment. And this, Austin...
I didn't get to choose.
Oh, he didn't get to choose. You're right. Oh, shoot. We missed Caden.
I'm sorry, Caden. Go for it, buddy.
Well, I mentioned earlier that Bailey Horn for the Chicago Cubs and Connor Thomas for the Cardinals were my picks. I have one more I'd like to add. Now, his numbers weren't exactly good, but his last game of the regular season, he ended up relieving in, and he looked very, very different than the other two appearances that he made. His name was Adam Macko of the Mariners. Macko's slider was on point in that last game, and I think that if he can figure out the control issues and not walk as many guys, I think he's going to be a very, very dominant reliever. The stuff is very, very good. When he's on, but the issue is going to be limiting those walks.
So every other pitcher, you're saying?
Correct. Except one
Every other pitcher, correct.
Except one pitcher.
Oh my God! You mean the guy that's going to be out of the league in 2 years? Actually, no, not 2 years, like 5 years.
No, that's Randy Rosarena.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But anyway, let's just move forward. We need to get this, done, over with. So, this is mainly to Caden because Austin, you've only been out here for 2 years, but I know you've seen Arizona Fall League on, games online or over the TV, so you can chime in. Who is the best prospect you've ever seen out here live or over, video or online? Caden, I'll let you go.
At the time of the AFL season when he was out here, he wasn't. But from how he's turned out now, it has to be Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Son of a bitch. That was my.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a star now. When he was out here, I had my question marks. So I was wondering if he'd be able to play third base, but he's proven everyone wrong and proved that he deserved all the hype that he was getting coming into the league. And now he is the star for the Blue Jays.
Hey, Caden. So what you're saying is that the same thing is going to happen to Diego Cartaya? He's going to end up a star and prove you wrong?
Who? Cartaya will never prove me wrong. He could bat 1,000 for the rest of next season, and I'd still be right.
Wow.
We just pissed off a whole lot of Dodgers fans.
Just wait. I mean, everyone's gonna be listening to this podcast. They're gonna know that I've been off on Cartaya ever since the start, and they're gonna be like, "Thank you for giving me that warning."
And also, Juan Pinto is a god, according to Caden.
Juan Pinto is a god, correct.
Juan Pinto is a reliever, lefty only.
That's another thing.
He'll be out of the league by 2027.
That's another thing I forgot to mention in our previous segment. It just happened to be that all three of the pitchers that I chose were left-handed. I did not plan that. They just happened to be left-handed. So maybe I have a thing for lefties.
Well, I hate you, Caden, because you took my guy. I was going to say Vlad Guerrero Jr. I thought that you had someone else, but I guess not. But so now I have to say who I've seen live. Live or over. So I'll just go with Ronald Acuna. I mean, when he was out here, he was just an absolute stud. There's really nothing else to say about him because there was a lot of hype around him. Or I can go with the opposite way, who hasn't really, come to stardom yet, but he will. Nelson Velasquez of the Cubs. I saw him out here last year, and he absolutely destroyed some baseballs. That was fun to watch. But Austin, do you even have one?
Yes, I do actually. So for foreshadowing, I'm going to say it's Caro because that guy's going to be a future All-Star, and everyone's going to thank me later. But for a guy that's already in the big leagues will be Bryson Stott. I even put out a tweet during the World Series that a year ago I was watching Stott in the AFL, and he was killing it. I thought he had a chance to stick it short. Now he still might end up transitioning over to another position, but I really liked his glove at short, I remember, and he was putting the ball in play pretty well. And, he made it to the World Series as a rookie. So I'm going to go with Bryson Stott.
Interesting. Well, we all went with, guys that are in the big leagues now. And there were other guys, but I didn't start watching AFL till about 3-4 years ago. So, yeah. But
all right, then.
Yeah, anyway, that's a very awkward way to end it. But, guys, I think our time is up for today. We just talked about a whole bunch of Arizona Fall League. We just overloaded so many people's brains with Arizona Fall League talk. It is unbelievable. But as always, I am your lovely, talented host, which is completely true. 100% true. It's in my DNA. Drake Man. You can follow me on Twitter at DrakeMan4. And Austin, Caden, say goodbye and anything you guys want to plug.
Just remember Juan Pinto.
Just remember Diego Cartaya.
We do want to say one thing really quick. So I do want to plug one thing. Unfortunately, the 2022 Risers and Shiners list, we're going to have to cut them off. We just did not. They kind of got away from us because, life hit us and stuff like that. But 2023 will be all our year. We will continue to push out good content, good scouting reports, stuff like that. And we will make sure to put down all 30 teams in 2023 and make sure that our lists are not only more accurate and our grades are more accurate, but everything about the lists are better. We have some epic plans for this year, so or 2023. So stay tuned for that. All right. Well, peace, y'all.
Peace.